The class war against the poor. There is a class war going on in the USA against the poor. The poor don't have the resources they need to get a higher education to work a good paying job. They can't afford a private school or tutors to get their grades up. They grow up with both parents working jobs too busy to help them or a single parent household. They are at a big disadvantage in society. It is because they are poor that they don't learn how to manage money. They can't start a business or qualify for a good paying job. They have bad credit. If they get a $900 traffic ticket, they can't pay rent. If they get a big medical or dental bill, they can't pay rent. If they can't pay rent, they are homeless and struggling. People always blame the poor for their misfortune, but society does nothing to help the poor. Some people become disabled and can't work and live on very little money. Some people can't get a good paying job and work a couple of minimum wage jobs. There needs to be a basic income the poor can live on while they try to get a good education to get a better paying job. The rich and middle class are at an advantage over the poor because they can afford a higher education and usually get a better education in private schools. They also have a social network they can use to find better paying jobs that the poor lack. Many poor families are disowned by other family members because they are poor. They live in terrible living conditions with slumlords not fixing up their apartments. Like in Flint, Michigan, the water is contaminated with lead or other things and poor families have poor health as a result. Ferguson, Missouri used to be a middle-class town, until it became run down and the middle-class people moved to St. Charles and West Country with newer houses. The poor moved into Ferguson and most are African American. They are racial profiled by the police and hassled, given expensive traffic tickets. The death of Mike Brown was just one incident in a string of incidents that keep on happening that lead to the riots and looting in Ferguson. There is an income inequality that needs to be fixed by giving poor people a higher education so they can work better paying jobs and move corporations into Ferguson that can hire poor people with better paying jobs. Compounded interest causes poverty, and poor people get high rates. They need to borrow money and after a while can't pay it back because the interest is too much. Compounded interest rates used to be a sin in Judaism and Christianity, but somehow because all right to do for banks and other people. In Islam it is still a sin and not allowed. Somehow during a change in society we got compounded interest rates as legal and a way to prey upon the poor to make them poor. It also forces a lot of people into bankruptcy as well. Poor people are often forced into bad living conditions. Some of them even turn to crime or join gangs because of lack of opportunities. In order to prevent that, the poor need opportunities to get a better standard of living and a better job. It would cut down on the crime rate and eliminate the need for gangs. Sadly, a lot of poor people kill themselves or get a gun and kill others. If they are given better opportunities, there would be less suicides and public shootings. A lot of poor people are minorities, people whom corporations who offer good paying jobs would not hire. There is a lot of discrimination against minorities in the workplace. A corporation can get rid of a minority by filing false reports that they are a bad employee with a poor performance. Some corporations do diversity hires to meet quotas. They often treat the minority as a token and don't realize it. A lot of the rich elite that run corporations are white people and have a selective bias on what type of employee they want to hire. They see a poor person as someone that can't manage money, so they can't trust them with a job. Poor people are not protected against discrimination for being poor or having a low credit score. Living on minimum wage means they cannot even afford an apartment. There are a lot of small businesses that need minimum wage to be low so they can stay in business, like comic book shops. But if the minimum wage is raised to $15 an hour, those small businesses will go out of business. Yet still there needs to be jobs that pay better than minimum wage that requires a middle to large business to create those jobs. It is not as simple as train the poor person to be a programmer and give them a laptop. It was tried on a homeless man. He was given a MacBook and training on how to write an iPhone app, and they paid the $100 Apple developer tax for him to publish his app. Nobody bought the app and he didn't earn any money from it. You see, developing an app means nothing if you don't have the money to market it to get people to use it. So just teaching people how to program isn't enough if they can't sell their app or get a job with the skills. I've worked as a programmer. It is very hard to get a job because of all the competition. Companies would rather hire a recent college graduate than an older person, so there is ageism as well that leads to poverty. Once you go from middle class to poor, it is hard to get out of being poor. The middle class is being destroyed by the rich elite by turning them into poor people. They eliminate their jobs by automation, robots, AI programs, websites, and the like. Those jobs don't come back, and jobs that replace them need a different education and skill set. My father worked at AT&T until it was broken up and then he was fired. His experience with Bell Labs 1 ESS computers did not matter as they were replaced with IBM System 36 systems. He knew electronics, he knew Unix and phone systems, but could not find a job using those skills. Microsoft Windows had dominated, and people who knew OS/2, VAX, and other things lost their jobs as well. In IT, when the technology you work with is suddenly obsolete, then so are you. The poor have become disposable employees by the rich elite. They use them for low-paying jobs, and as soon as there is economic trouble they fire them. They are used a lot in retail sales and fast food. There are so many poor people that need jobs that as soon as they are eligible for a pay raise they are fired and replaced with a new poor person.